Hi, we have Kendall Wallace, who's a founder of Authentic Travel Adventure, and she's going to go with us through what is a survey, how to actually get the right questions to address the personas that you're after, right? The client personas you're after, and how to even create a survey. She's taken tons of classes, even from somebody from, I believe, the MasterCard, right? The
Yep.
UX and MasterCard. So go for it. Take it away.
All right, will do. Thank you, Tanya. I appreciate it. Here we go. Let me share my screen so y'all can see what I'm looking at. All righty. Okie doke. Cool. So as Tanya mentioned, I am just going to go through really about how to survey people, how to connect with customers. And really the point of this is that when I've been stopped with like not understanding something about a customer or stopped in my business, I always really turn to that customer centric approach of like, let's just go back to the people and figure out what it is they want. So the objective or the overviews today is to, and sorry, this, let me just make sure, see if I can get this box out of my way because I can't actually read the slide with the thing. Just give me 1 second. All right, I'm going to stop the screen share for 2 seconds just so I can actually read the slide. Sorry. Here we go. Move this down. Come on, buddy. All right, here we go. Okay, now I can do it. Sorry about that, guys. Okay, and now I can actually see. All right, perfect. So objectives. So really, like the objectives of when thinking about designing a survey is really to set or when thinking about embarking on research for your customers is to really set a clear objective for what's the point of the research. Like, what do we, research can go so many long and different ways that it's really a matter of figuring out like what what is actually going to make the difference to my business. So what do I actually want people to do? And a lot of the research that I've done is related to like actually usability studies of a website or really like just discovering information about clients. But it's a matter of like, and usually what that final call to action is okay, if someone's looking at my website, like I want them to become a customer, right? So like, what actually did they need to see? How does that website need to be structured? Those types of things to understand, so that like that final call to action is accomplished, right? So, and it's really a matter of determining for yourself, having that like self-assessment at the beginning, what information, if you knew it, would make the difference to your business. So in that initial discovery process, it's a matter of deciding, what's the problem that I'm trying to solve here. And for me, like for example, when I I had the idea for my business originally, I wanted to call it Senior Study Abroad because it's a travel business targeted at retirees or senior citizens. I thought I was so clever with this idea of senior study abroad, right? Because it's like your senior year of senior part of life. Great. So then I dove into, but as I started sharing it, I started receiving a little bit of feedback of like, I don't know about that name. And so then I made sure to include that when I sent out a larger survey. It's over 100 people and got feedback. And overwhelmingly, they were like, change the name. Authentic Travel Adventures then became born. So what's really, that's just an example of something that was like a question, right? Me as a founder kind of having a theory and then really getting that customer feedback and then being able to really make quite a bit of change with something that's going to resonate more with the customer. And what's beautiful about surveys and what I love about them is specifically when you get those survey responses, you can use that copy that you get from the customer themselves to then put on your website. And then that resonates even further because it's directly from the horse's mouth, right? So it's like addressing exactly those pain points or in their own words. So is a nice way to obtain that feedback. And then pricing was a question for me, as was certain activities in the design of the trip that I created. So all of these were really open-ended questions that I needed answers to. So I needed to create that feedback loop, because when I looked, there was actually nothing at the time. So there's different methodologies for obtaining this user research. Really, first and foremost is surveys, and then interviews. Focus groups are really between 6 to 8 people, and then ethnographic research is actually being able to observe either directly or indirectly a person interacting with a particular product, and almost like kind of anthropological research of watching people interact with a website, or even Intuit made it really big, where they would have these follow me home, and they would actually look at how people use Quicken Books and actually do those ethnographic studies at people's homes to understand, like, okay, how do they use Quicken, and TurboTax, and it was around TurboTax, but like, how do they actually use those products to in their home so that they can make it better. So what data gathering to use and when? If you want to just direct your attention to, so the first column is technique, right? Like, for example, interviews. And what it's really good for is exploring issues. And the kind of data you get is some quantitative, but it's a lot of qualitative. And the advantages are really encouraging that contact, and getting people to open up more so than they could in surveys, but it is time consuming. Then we have focus groups, which is really collecting multiple viewpoints. And the beautiful thing about focus groups is that you're able to incorporate multiple personas. And what I mean by personas is multiple different client groups. Each company should have no more than 5 really target personas. And so what's interesting here is that you can really get those similar threads that maybe different personas have. So it highlights the areas of consensus and also the areas of conflict. And then with questionnaires, you're really answering specific questions. The good thing about that is you can have a much larger reach, right? Because it's all done online. But the design is crucial. It's the response rate may be low, and the responses may not exactly be what you want. It leaves something that you can't exactly follow up on as you could in an interview. Direct observation in the field is mostly qualitative. It's that follow me home approach I mentioned earlier. And then direct observation in a controlled environment, like really none of us startups have access to that, because that costs a lot of money, and really only like larger corporations have access to that. And then indirect observation. So I'm going to focus the large part of this presentation on really questionnaires and a little bit of interviews, but really questionnaires, because it's what we want to know is how we can survey people. And so you really have closed questions or open questions. And open-ended ones would be where you're soliciting a response from your user, versus closed is more you have a select set of options, and that are predefined that the user gets to choose. And really questionnaires are the best way to get the predetermined, those closed set of questions answered. And questionnaires are also very good for getting a large group of people spread out across a wide geographic area. So the questionnaire is definitely cheaper, but if the respondents need persuasion to answer the questions, it would be better to use an internet format, and ask the questions face-to-face through a structured interview. So here's some, as I mentioned, the questions can be open or closed. Some information on the question types. Open questions, it's really when it's very exploratory, and closed questions when the possible answers in advance. And here's another key about questionnaires is really don't make it, keep it simple, stupid, right? Like people get confused on really compound sentences on questionnaires. So sometimes you really need to split it up into two different questions. So instead of, for example, how do you like this cell phone compared to the previous ones you've owned, you say, how do you like this cell phone? Have you owned other cell phones? And how did you like those? So really just keeping it simpler. And so here I'm going to give you some examples of these questions I'm talking about. So the open-ended ones, meaning that there are no particular expectation, about the answers. We're really trying to get, whatever ideas are presented. And then we have a more structured approach, which is, which of the following websites do you visit most frequently, right? That's an example of a closed one where it's, having different options there. Or how often do you visit this website? These are all, this is good information to know so that you can really understand where, these types of, the answers to these questions can help you understand where to be advertising, where, just more about your users so that you can really understand that persona more and understand their needs. And then then you have semi-structured, which is kind of a mixture of both, where it's what music websites do you, like an example would be, what music websites do you visit most frequently and then why? And, asking them for a little bit more information. And then we have group, which are the focus groups, and that's usually between 3 to 10 people and led by a trained facilitator. And now I'm going to get into how to design the survey, because one of the, it's really not that hard. Like Google Forms, I'll go over a little bit later, but that's just such an easy opportunity for you to be able to design something, to get a little bit of feedback from your users if you're not doing so already. The thing about survey design, though, is you really want to keep it, a lot of these big corporations, right? They're going to, have opportunities. I'm sure you guys have gotten those emails, like where it's, you have a screener and then essentially you can have compensation of like $50 gift card or something for completing a survey or for doing an interview. And, this is a group of entrepreneurs. So I don't really think that's an option for most people on this conversation. So, really, if you're not compensating people, you got to keep it short because people don't want to spend much time answering questions for free. So really 5 to 7 minutes with a good value prop in the beginning. If you look at this is a questionnaire I sent out last year that was about my business, Authentic Travel Adventures. And if you look, that there's the title there, but then right below it is like, what is this questionnaire actually going to be used for? So that real kind of value prop of like, okay, where is this information going to go? And it's going to be used to design this experience in the south of France. So the whole 5 to 7 minutes, make it shorter if you can, but it's really, it depends on the number of questions, between 5 to 7 questions, but then you'll see in a second that some of them go a lot quicker. So how to structure this survey. So like I said, the first note is you have the introduction at the top, like what's the value of me completing this survey? And then really what you want to do is get easy questions first. So you get the non-threatening questions. What's your age? What's your relationship status? Where do you live? What's your sex? What gender do you identify with? Those are kind of the layup questions that don't take much thought. And you want to structure those first because that gets people in the mode of answering questions. Oh, that was easy. Like, let me go on to the next. So you have the easy questions first. That's probably my biggest piece of, or one of my biggest notes for you. And then, and if you've never designed a survey before, you wouldn't necessarily know that. And then the second part is really the main question. So having them in a logical sequence with the most probing at the end. And then this is similar to how you really structure interviews, if you wanted to go that way, is having a cooling off period of a few easy questions in case anything that was probing was like, brought something up for someone. And then at the end, just closing the session. And the question I always end with is there anything you haven't had a chance to mention, any type of feedback that you haven't had a chance to provide yet that you would like to? That always kind of just closes it up, lets the opportunity for the user to leave any type of feedback they think is valuable for you. So I know this is a lot of text, sorry. So about the questionnaires, it's important that they're really specific, and questionnaires, surveys, by the way, I'm using interchangeably, and that these closed questions should be asked in a range of answers offered. And then you start by asking for that demographic information, like I mentioned, right? And then think about that ordering of the questions, right? Because people can be, the thing is too, is I remember when structuring surveys, if you want people to have like provide an answer of what's their ideal, travel experience, then you want to have that, like that was a question on one of my surveys. You want to have that question before then you provide options of what the ideal travel experience could look like. Like you really have to think about, okay, if I'm the user, do I want them just ideating first and then provide them some solutions, or do I want it the other way around? So really, really think logically through that. And then you need to consider that you might need different versions of the questionnaire for different populations. And you provide clear instructions on how to complete the questionnaire. That's something else, I can't stress enough. It goes back to that compound sentence question of just keep it simple. Keep it simple. And really the thing to do too is once you come up with a questionnaire or survey, really have some people pass through it. You have to show it to people, be like, and have them take it and give you feedback. Does this make sense? Does it not? Before you go sending it out to, 20 people or whatever, have your pod of 6 people. There's something in UX research and design that if you test something with five people, you'll figure out 85% of the problems. So really be able to test that. And then you really need to keep the balance between the white space actually in the design and keep it as compact as possible. I'm going to go over just a couple different question types, I guess. The scales. So really the purpose of this is to elicit a range of responses to a question that can be compared across respondents. So there's Likert scales, which are used. Did somebody have a question? Okay. All right. I'll just keep going. If you do have a burning question, feel free to pipe in. So Likert scales are used for measuring opinions, attitudes, and beliefs, and consequently, they're used for evaluating user satisfaction with products. You really want these to always. Have you ever noticed? Maybe you've never noticed before, but all of these are usually odd numbers, right? So you want to have the extremes, and then you want to have a middle, only one neutral. So that's, yeah, you can see examples over to the side of what essentially respondents that are 5 strongly agree, okay, strongly disagree, and disagree. And then there's rating scales. Perhaps you guys remember these from some of the tests that you can take about yourself, online, like the Gallup surveys and that type of thing, about your strengths. In any case, these are really used to determine, 2 opposing, 2 bipolar attitudes about a particular item. And it'll help you identify essentially how most of your customers, you know, feel about a particular question that you want answered. And then we have other question formats, which are like the yes, don't know, no, and you can use a smaller number when the possibilities are very limited, like 3, but usually it's that 5 is a sweet spot. And you use a longer range, you know, when asking respondents to make more subtle judgments. For example, like what's the level of appeal of a particular part of your website? So with regard to questionnaires, reaching a representative sample of participants is important. And, you know, and the second factor really is ensuring a reasonable response rate. So for large surveys, you want, and you also want to use a sampling technique, but you want to have, you know, I remember like for this large survey I sent it out to over 100 people, and I got 37 responses. So that was right around the 40% mark. And then if you send it out to fewer than 20 users, you're going to get higher participation, or at least you should aim for that by being enrolling and getting them to respond. And then I mentioned the incentives part about you could pay people if you wanted. So the easiest way to accomplish these, like a survey for yourself, and I'm not sure what people have as far as feedback loops, but like this is my go-to because it's a great way to get a lot of information really quickly without having to spend all that time interviewing, and also you can get information spread out over a wide geographic area. So the easiest way to do it is just go to Google Forms, and this is what your initial screen is going to look like. You're gonna title the form, add a description, and then Google has made it super simple and easy to include include the question types that I just mentioned earlier. And then you just go to this little plus sign when you add a new question. And then from that information, what you're really going to want to do is develop a persona. And that's, you know, sorry, this is a blank slide other than the link, but I'll just say 2 things and then we'll see an example of a persona. The persona, like I mentioned earlier, you do not want more than 5 for your business. You want 2 to 3, and you put them in different colors for who they are, right? I mean, even it's amazing. Some businesses, you know, even I think it's MasterCard, I want to say. Yeah, I think it's MasterCard. They actually have a cubicle in one of their offices that is designated to what this to like Joe Schmo, their ideal persona, and he has a desk and he has like family photos and everything because they want to understand who is that customer. And that's really all this is, you know, to grow our businesses, really have to have that customer-centric mindset, and there's just ways to be able to do it. So this is a project I worked on last year, not related to my business, but in any case, it'll give you an example of what a persona looks like. And I did put that link extensio because it provides this just beautiful looking like format that looks professional, and you know, really you just plug and chug, and it's really great for kind of orienting yourself to your ideal client and customer. And so personas always have a quote, right? This was a project I worked on for a church, but you know, it's during church would be nice to have something for my kids to be doing during a service other than coloring at the back table, right? And I was helping. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I was helping the church innovate a new product idea, but to attract preschool parents. But in any case, like you really understand like the mindset there, and all those quotes come from surveys, and then really looking at the age. Who are we talking to? What's the average age? And what's beautiful too about Google Forms is you get that information. It just spits it right out. You know, you include that question at the front, right? Because you want people to just answer it. You want to have that demographic data, and then you get all these great charts right away and information about your customer. So it's really great. And then, so just what are their goals? What are their frustrations? What's their bio? And then really looking at the preferred channels, like who are they? Where are we marketing to them? What do they use a lot? What brands do they like? I didn't include the brands on this, but that's definitely a big one. And then from there, you can create journey maps. And that's really being able to look at the customer journey, okay? And what are, you know, at each point of interaction, what are those pain points? What are their thoughts? What are their feelings? What are their motivations? What questions do they have? And really, I think where we as entrepreneurs get stuck, in my opinion, is when we don't have answers to those questions. And it's really a matter of then going back to the source and figuring out like what the source being the customer, like what are their feelings when they go on a trip? You know, what are their feelings when they go to book something? And what are their motivations? What are their questions? And what are their biggest pain points? Like, so that's really the overview I had. Wow, we're kind of right on time. So thank you. And now I'll open it up to Q&A if you guys have any. And let me stop sharing so I can see y'all. Cool.
Great. So I was wondering the question of Extensio, how did you have to fill out the information, or it just gives you put the information in and then it allows you to display it easily?
It's already in that format, and then you just edit the copy. Yeah, so you just edit, like it's already in that exact format. You can just click on it and edit it, and you can get 3 different personas for free per month without paying.
Okay.
Yeah, does that answer your question? So like the bio part, you would just click on it and edit it. It's already all in that format. Edit the photo.
Perfect. Yvonne, did you have any questions? No. David or Jonathan, any questions? I do like how you said test 5 people and that'll be 85% of your problems.
Yeah, that's a user experience rule of thumb. Is in particular, you know, a lot of these questions come from either you need to understand something about your user, right? Or you actually want to see them interact with your website. And we all have websites. So if you do a usability study and actually observe someone like interacting with your site, you'll be able to figure out 85% of those problems. And that's a rule of thumb too for any type of for the screener, you know, for a survey. It's just showing it to 5 people, you'll be able to figure that out.
And do you have any resources where people, let's say they didn't have 100 people to test out their market, right, to send this email? Are there any sites where you can go and like have other people fill out the survey?
You can. You need to pay for it.
Do you know some of those?
Usertesting.com is the biggest one.
Usertesting.com. And what do you think about that data? Is it like...
To be honest, that one's more for usability, like for actual usability of their site. And I've never used it, but that's the go-to for most larger companies for getting as many people to like actually test the site as possible.
Yeah, I think there's this other site where you can actually have people answer the questions. I forgot the name of it. Just because, like, how many people, like, let's say, I don't know, Yvonne was sending out about her company. How many people do you think is a decent size for her to send out to get enough information to do the persona, and collect the data?
Yeah, I mean, anything north of it, they, in all honesty, Tanya, the correct answer is just more than nothing, for any business. I mean, that's really it. But ideally, you want a sample size that's over 100, if possible, depending
So you
on.
want 100 responses, or do you want 100 to send out to get responses? Because you said 40%, I believe, is usually a good response rate.
Yeah, 40% is a good response rate. I mean, yeah, as much data as you can get is best. Like, for sizing the sample size, I mean, definitely over 100 is better. But yeah, I mean, it's hard to say without knowing what exactly the question is. But like for Vaughn, for example, yeah, try to get, I would say, I mean, knowing her network too, send it out to 400. And if you can get 100 responses, you're going to have a lot of awesome data. Mm-hmm. And that's going to give you some much more meaningful information than, let's say, 40.
And how do you prioritize all this data once you get it, right?
Well, it goes back to very much like setting the tone for what is your objective in the research from the beginning. Like, because you can just go off on this. It's like, what do you really want to know? And then sticking to that. That's how. You have to just stick to the protocol that you set at the beginning.
So it's like you come up with some sort of hypothesis.
Yes. Yeah.
And then go from there. Okay.
I do have a question, and I apologize for coming on late because I was on another call. So you'd said something about journey maps, Kendall. And I know I may be asking something because you've already gone over that, but I wonder if you might say a little bit more about that and the customer journey. Because I was in an event last night, and just in conversation with somebody who, I'm explaining what I'm up to, what I'm doing, and the things that I'm curious about and want to pursue. And I actually was starting to talk about the subscription box and the retreat, and she was like, "Sign me up. I want to be on that." And I was looking at her because I was like, "Oh, you're one of my customers." So it's like my first experience of like really getting, oh, that's what one of my customers could look like.
Yeah.
So when you say journey map and customer journey, I just wonder if you might just say just a little bit more about it so I can absolutely get it.
Yeah. Let me, what I'm going to do is share my screen again. I just pulled up one so I can show you what one looks like. Okay.
Right.
Give me one sec. Cool.
Oh, wow.
So this is what a journey map looks like. And this is like the second step after, this is just an example. This is not mine, but this is a really good example because, so once you have that persona, right, then we want to look at what's the process to get them to purchase, right? So really looking at those thoughts and feelings, like, what is this for? I don't even know. This is just some example of something. Okay, well, Sarah is moving, her family of 3. She knows she's going to need phone and internet service. So the effective and contextual factors that will affect Sarah's choice in broadband vendors are price and her existing knowledge. Okay. So then we look at her thoughts and feelings, and that's literally what she's saying. So this is like, straight from the horse's mouth. Like, we're moving, price has to be right. I'll go online. And then you see how it says aspirational there too? Like, what is, like, there's a lot here, like, how's she feeling? Overwhelmed. I'm not even sure what this means. In the inquiry stage, right, where you see the phases of the journey, and you have that really emotional experience, right? And she's comparing. So now it's like, okay, she's excited and empowered, like comparing. Okay, I'll use my buddy's advice. I should, refine my own vendor search, and then so it's really those thoughts and feelings that they're saying. And then what their emotional experience is. And right around purchase is when it gets to be the best. And then making sure that product delivery is appropriate.
Yeah.
So does this...
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, thank you.
I had a question, if I could.
Sure.
So if you have a smaller sample size, let's say it's under 100, let's say it's 50, isn't there some sort of statistical variance that you could place against that kind of smooths out the fact that it's a smaller audience? And if there is, how do you find out what that is?
That's a great question. And in all honesty, like statistical significance is not my area of expertise. I'll be perfectly straight with you. Like that's something I'm learning, but I'm not sure how that would be applied. But you know, as I mentioned earlier, at the heart of it, like you know, being able to find out some information is better than nothing. But I don't know the answer to your question.
Okay.
I'll try and see if I can find some information and send it to Tanya to share.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Any other questions? I'm trying to see where I had in my notes. I like how you had the persona, make sure the persona has a quote, right? To kind of like center and get that emotion and what that person is dealing with.
Yeah. Like for you, Tanya, for your, you know, it'd be like, I want to grow my business and I don't know how. Or I want to grow my business and, you know, I need accountability, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's
and have that there. And then how come you use Google instead of like Typeform or any of the other ones?
just because it's really easy. I mean, it's really easy, simple. Everybody's got a Google account.
And you would say, I know that you said it's the last question, unless anyone else has any. You said it was 5 to 7 minutes to complete a quiz. So you're assuming that each question is like a minute. So just have a...
Except for those beginning questions that go a lot quicker, right? Like, what's your age? You know, what gender do you identify with? Those you can have, you know, like those take about 20, 30 seconds, not even, you know.
So those take 20 or 30 seconds. Yeah. So then, okay.
I mean, I would leave like probably, right around 20 seconds.
So you would assume that it was like about like 10 questions then?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, it's important because some people do like 20 and it takes longer.
No, and that's the thing. That's why you got to test it out with people, you know, before, because, you know, you're asking people to do something for free and to do it for your business. You can't, impose on people too much, like, I think, because people just aren't incentivized to do it unless it's like, you know, or even 3 to 4 minutes. Like, the shorter, the better. It's like, be laser with what do you have to know.
That's really, what do you have to, I think that's the hardest part, like coming up with like those literally 4 questions that are going to be moving like your data, right? Because you can come up with so many ways of saying it. Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Yeah, just a quick one. I've sent out Google Forms. I don't know that I've filled one out myself. Is there a progress bar on that or not? And if there's not, can you recommend a survey form that does have a progress bar? Because I think that's really helpful when people understand, I'm not going to be at this for 20 minutes. I'm almost done.
Oh, yeah. I know what you're talking about. No, there's no progress bar. And that'll be my second note. I'll follow up with Tanya about some of them that do have.
I know Typeform has it.
Yeah. Okay. That's good to know. And I'm not sure about MailChimp, if MailChimp or, if they have a survey that has a progress bar. That would be another go-to, I guess.
I didn't know MailChimp did surveys.
Yeah, Constant Contact, I think, is what you're thinking of.
Oh, okay. No, there's another survey, a Chimp survey thing. I can't remember what it is. I've gotten a bunch of them. I'll look for it and I'll let you know what it is.
Survey Monkey.
Survey Monkey, yeah.
Yeah.
It was in the ape family.
And I think Survey Monkey allows you to send it to other people, the quiz, so you can get more. The survey, not quiz. The survey to other people. So let's say you didn't have 400 people, you could actually send it out. And I think it's just a low cost.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well,
All right.
thank you so much for your time, Kendall.
Hey, my pleasure.
Thanks,
Thank
Kendall.
you so much. All right. Good luck to everybody.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Take care. Bye.